If you are ready to rock business and build a business, even in a moment of financial uncertainty, my incredible client Glory has been telling me how much this book has been like totally quantum leaping her results. So we want to pull a few of the best teaching points out of here for you. Glory, thank you so much for being here.
I am absolutely thrilled. Not only do I consider you my dear friend, my colleague, I feel like I'm a star student, and I'm definitely an ultimate super fan. And I'm so excited that I'm kind of interviewing you. I mean, Sage Lavine on her own podcast. It doesn't get any better than that. So I think in the last few months, I've sent you a few messages, just kind of oozing over your book and how much you've inspired me. So it's kind of a thrill for me to pull out some of the best knowledge out of your head and get it into everyone else's heads, and of course their hearts as well, to grow their businesses, and especially with the recession coming up. And we've talked about that quite a bit. So if I may, Sage Lavine is a #1 best-selling author of the Hay House book, Women Rockin' Business, and the CEO of Women Rockin' Business Training Company, reaching over 4,000 women entrepreneurs around the globe. Women Rocking Business has raised over $1 million for women's humanitarian projects around the world, supporting girls in developing countries. Sage has been featured on the TEDx stage through the Microsoft Women's Network, the Inc. 5000 list, NPR, and so many more. Sage has also spoken alongside Neil Donald Walsh, Jack Canfield, Janet Atwood, Marcy Scheimoff, and she believes in entrepreneurship as a way to close that gender pay gap. And I just want to get into this. Welcome, Sage.
Oh my gosh. I just want to let every single one of you know, like, we want to lay down a few tips today to really get you thinking about the way you sell and the way you present your services and the way that you align your story with your greatest mission. And there's no one better suited to lead this interview than Glory. You know, Glory St. Germain is the founder of the CEO Ultimate Music Theory. She's a TEDx speaker. Glory is the international bestselling author of 50 plus ultimate music theory books and the Power of Why Musician series. She's the host of the Global Music Teacher Summits, an expert music teacher, business coach, creator of the UMTC Elite Educator Program. And she's reaching students over 37 countries. And Glory has in the past, not even 6 months, like taken her passion for music and taken her music-based business like to the next level. And it's just really fun for both of us to get to be here transmitting for you.
It really is, Sage. And this book, Women Rocking Business, it honestly has transformed my business, and it's transformed my life. And I've simply followed your step-by-step guidebook to create a business and a life that I love. And I, first of all, want to say thank you for taking the time to share your expertise, because I know how much work it is to write a book. And I love this book. So let's dive into some questions, if we may. You just doubled your launch from last year, even though people are saying there's a recession coming and other digital marketers are complaining, about traffic and leads and so on. So here is Women Rockin' Biz. It just keeps growing and growing. And you've put over 5,000 women through your women speaking training program, including me. So Sage, how do we recession-proof our business?
It's such a good question. And I think that what it really comes down to, no matter whether it's COVID or a recession or some kind of a global disaster or whatever climate change may do, what it really comes down to, I believe in my heart of hearts, is that we provide a good service to our clients. And I get a little tender and even vulnerable as I share that, because there's so many gimmicks out there. There's so much, the hottest strategy out there. And if that strategy isn't paired with a reminder for you who are watching this video, if that strategy that you're reaching for isn't paired with your commitment to actually serve and change your clients' lives, it just won't work. And if your fear is bigger than that commitment, it's also not going to work. And so we just need your commitment to actually change lives to be like 1 degree bigger than the fear And at Women Rocking Business, we really, truly believe that our business is only going to be as strong as our clients are getting results. And so it's like the CEO of Hay House, Reed Tracy, is a friend of mine. When I asked him how to write a best-selling book, he said, I'm going to tell you something no-brainer. It's not the most popular answer, but write a good book. Like, don't try to sell books before you've written a really good book. And I just remember that really went in. Like, he's the freaking CEO of Hay House, and that's his biggest piece of advice. And my biggest piece of advice as a $5 million business owner who used to be a school teacher from Iowa, used to make $28,000 a year. So this has grown really quickly over here too, is build a good business. Like, when you're committed to changing your client's life and you actually go all in for them and you don't hold back and you stop being afraid of responsibility and you stop being afraid that it's not going to work or you're not going to get them results, ask them to meet you halfway. It's never just about you getting them results. It's about them meeting you halfway. And when you're actually committed and willing to go all in, there's something that happens. It's like you're answering a universal call from the divine, and your business becomes a channel of universal energy, and you're never doing it alone. The wind is at your back, and there's no limit to what you can create when you're in the flow in that way. And that's what we're all going for. We don't want to just build ourselves another job. We want to become a channel of the utmost high. And that's what every single one of you is, or you wouldn't be still listening to us. So it's just so good to get to saddle up next to you, Glory, and all of the other women in this community and really build these businesses together.
Yeah, it's so true, Sage. So true. I just resonate with everything so deeply that you're saying. And, you also always say that your life has been the PhD program in preparing you for this message. And you actually have shared an entire section on this in your book for chapter 5, for those of you that are following along in your workbooks at home. And I think that's such a cool concept. Can you just share a little more about that?
Thank you for asking. I think one of the biggest things that can hold us back as sort of sensitive, empathic, wise women leaders and thought leaders, messengers, one of the biggest things that can hold us back is thinking that somebody's already doing it better. Imposter syndrome. How am I really going to make my way? How am I really going to stand out or differentiate? Think about if I jumped into the Julia Roberts movie, Pretty Woman. It would be a completely different movie, right? So I just want to name that every single one of you bringing your gift is going to bring it in a way that your audience can hear. And you've been through a completely different set of life circumstances than any other mentor who's doing something similar to what you do. And so there truly are clients out there that I believe and know in my heart of hearts that are destined for you. Right? I had a mom who was a school teacher, an aunt that was a school teacher, a grandpa and a father and a great grandpa that were all school teachers, long line of school teachers. And my mom didn't want me selling Girl Scout cookies. She was terrified I would offend the neighbors. Some of you have heard me tell that story. But the thing about coming from that lineage is I'm an educator through and through. I'm not a tactical salesperson. My family hated slimy salespeople. And so I've been forced to find a way that's just completely congruent with this kind of wholesome, grew up in Iowa, used to be a school teacher making $28,000 a year. It's like I've been forced to stay true to my wholesome background and find a way to offer my services anyway. And that's why I've been featured in Inc. And that's why I've been featured in NPR. And that's why I've taken the TEDx stages, because businesses are a solution to the world's greatest problems. When we create our own economy, we can turn this whole thing around, and nobody can do it in the way that you can do it. So freaking stop hiding behind the curtain and get out there.
Yeah. You're making me just want to peek through the curtain and take the steps with you. And I have, and, how have you've done this for yourself. And so I know you share so much and so generously from your heart, Sage. So how can we leverage our life? How can we stand out in the world? Because sometimes we feel like it's so crowded, right?
It's time for every single one of you to open the curtain on your life and let people see all of you. Glory was on a training call yesterday where I opened up the curtain and shared a really vulnerable story with some, something that's been going on in my life. Some of you know that when I was young, my parents were divorcing, and I had this way of being a little bit of a shy, but kind of bossy know-it-all at school. And so I got kicked out of the club over and over and over again. So there were times in my early teens that I ended up with no parents that were really there for me. Mom having a panic attack, dad having meltdowns, and my friends not wanting to spend time around me. And it was devastating. And because there was that weakness there, I became a victim of bullying. I got locked in lockers. I got beat up. And it was a really painful time for me. And it was because of that literally being like, I remember being locked in that locker, Glory. I was probably there for almost an hour before the janitor came and let me out. And there's something that happens, right? But it's like, we've all been through, right? I share that story, not for empathy, because we've all been locked in that locker. And what part of you is locked in that locker? And what happened to you that made you go, no more? My wound is in direct inverse proportion to my greatest superpower. And I crawled right through the wormhole of being so painfully excluded and so painfully bullied. I crawled through that wormhole, and there was some part of me, even though I didn't know it at the time, that inherently knew, if this is what it feels like to be excluded this painfully, I'm going to figure out what it means to make people feel included. And one of the things, Glory, that women tell me every time I do a training, over and over and over and over again, I've probably been told this over 1,000 times. I've never been a part of a learning community where I felt such a sense of belonging right off the bat. Yep. And here's the thing. If you don't feel a sense of belonging, it's going to be really hard to go do something risky and scary. So if we can create a sense of belonging and safety at Women Rocking Business, and we're giving you the tools to go out there and speak and change lives and host webinars and get on stage, and you actually feel a sense of complete safety and belonging here, your results are going to be ginormous. We can't go out and do this in a bubble. We have to have a springboard. We have to know that people have our backs. When we were, right, like when our ancestors that used to get kicked out of the clan, they had nowhere to go. It was staying in the clan or the tribe, if you will. I use that word with total respect. That was your survival. You couldn't survive on your own. Can you see it? And so I have this incredible gift of creating community in a room full of 5 people or 500 people or 1,000 people or 5,000 people. And that only is happening because I was locked in that damn locker. And you have the same thing that's true for you. So think about what that is for you and stop holding back, because this is how we leverage our life to stand out. And this is how we recession-proof our businesses, by the way, by knowing and standing for what's possible when people change and transform. The world's full of mediocrity and complacency.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to be the ones to say, no, not on my watch. I'm stepping out. I'm going to do something else. And Glory, I've watched you do that over and over and over again. I mean, 6 months ago, you were barely doing business. And now you have hundreds of thousands of dollars coming into your business, students coming out of nowhere. You've got, I mean, just like every single one of us is capable of this. We just have to, you get to get out of your own way, every single one of you watching. And that's the most beautiful gift you could give the world.
It has been such a powerful transition for me, just to see and be supported by the incredible community that you have created, Sage. Like, I mean, women, it's a sisterhood, and we are so honored that you are our leader, and we are so happy to be a part of this and support each other too. And I guess a question that, with sparkle fingers, because we are grateful, and we not only honor you, Sage, but we love you and respect you and understand how committed you are to helping us grow our businesses. And I guess, a question that comes to mind is, why do you believe, now is the time for women? How can we leverage that? And we are women. We are Women Rockin' Business, we are committed to making a difference in our lives. Oh yeah, it's happening, girlfriend. So what can we do that we really want to leverage our business now? What's our next steps?
So what I will say is, it was the Dalai Lama who said the Western woman will save the world. I don't actually agree with him. I think women, period, are going to save the world. Sure. And I also think that the feminine is a big part of that, whether the feminine exists in the role of a woman or a man or someone who's living outside of those traditional gender norms. It's not just about women anymore. And I'll tell you a quick behind the scenes story that we thought about not being Women Rocking Business last year. We thought about opening it up, but every single week we have somebody reach out, and every single year we have hundreds of women reach out and tell us, I needed this women's community. And as women, we actually have a particular programming, especially women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. We have a couple women in their 80s in our programs. And we have a particular set of programming around money. And, when my mom married my dad, my grandfather took my mother's social security card and insurance paperwork and her bank account information and gave it to my dad and said, she's yours now. And that wasn't outside of the norm of what was happening. And that's just one generation from me. So whether your mom was financially empowered or not, I want every single one of you watching to think about this for a moment, because we are so close to a time where women didn't have their own bank accounts. Women couldn't vote. And so that still ends up being like the tanglements in us when we go to start a business, when we go to ask for the sale, when we go to put a price tag on our services. And so doing some of this work with the women's journey in mind, what we found is doubling and tripling our clients' results. Out in the world, 80% of businesses are not succeeding. Here at Women Rocking Business in our community, 80% of businesses that are growing up in our community are having results. And I'm so proud of that. And we have fought hard for it. And I really believe that as women, we still can benefit so much from having that transmission that happens inside a sisterhood. Now, will we always stay that way? I don't know. I know that our processes and our frameworks really work for men, but as you're growing and expanding your brand, as you're growing and expanding your business, my suggestion to every single one of you is, once you have a good, solid handful of clients, lean on them, listen to them. Don't build your business in a closet. Don't hide behind your computer. The strongest programs, the strongest home study courses, the strongest transformational programs or immersions or retreats or workshops come out of a leader who's listening to their students. And that's, I think, what's so cool is because your body of work gets to unfold and you're in service because you're actually answering the questions of clients that are hiring you. And then you don't need to build your business in a box. You can build your business in community. And that's actually where women thrive, that none of us have to do this alone.
Yeah. You've just struck so many chords with me. And even when you said about women suppressing, bank accounts and this and that. I remember when I bought my first car and my husband he's an entertainer. He was out of town and I was going in there to buy a vehicle for myself. And he said, oh, don't you want to check with your husband first? And it kind of made me cringe to say, no, I'm the buyer. I was so agitated, but I think it's what I love about Women Rocking Business is it is women. We are empowering each other. We lift each other up. I love the community and it is a safe place for us to just be vulnerable and share. And I think one of the most impactful things for me as I read your book, Sage, was the real stories and the eye-opening ideas that allowed me to actually see myself in achieving these goals. And I love your concept of clarifying your superpower. I'm going to get a cape. I think that's what I need. And the action steps of integration. To me, that was huge. Can you share a little bit about that process as you describe it in integration in your book?
Yeah. Let me just say a few things and then, go grab the book if you haven't already. I think this is on page 103. I'll riff on that though, because the same example of me being locked in that locker and that literally opening up a karmic opportunity, a karmic, I even believe in the phrase karmic duty to bring this gift to the world that I could not have brought if I hadn't experienced the contrast. So your superpower was born in the fire of your wound. So I'll say that one more time, and I invite you to grab a pen and paper. And whether you do this now or after you, watch this training or listen to this training, I invite you to really ask yourself, what are the superpowers that were forged in the fire of my greatest pain? Because you and only you have a unique set of superpowers that makes you the perfect person to be delivering this message. And it's so interesting because I see so many women entrepreneurs and messengers and speakers get so hung up on, what's my message? What's my message? Who are my clients? And I always say, ask what your superpower is first, because it doesn't even matter that much what message you're bringing. Glory, you're over there in empowering music teachers to create incredible businesses out of their love for music and their music teaching career. And I'm over here supporting women and women speakers and women messengers to build a movement and get their message out and take the stage and build freedom businesses. My friend Claire Zammit, I just was in touch with her yesterday. She's helping women take back their power and expand into all they can be. And the three of us, we're doing very similar things with our time. We're teaching, we're recording videos, we're making podcasts, we're writing books, and we're all lit up about what we're talking about. If I had chosen a different message, I'd be just as lit up about that because I love helping people transform. So instead of getting all stressed out about what your message is, get really clear on what your superpower is and where it came from. And that's your best story. That's why people are going to listen to you. Content tells, but stories are what sell. A good story is going to have you stand out 100 times more than any particular piece of content you bring. Content is a dime a dozen these days. So grab some content, doesn't matter what it is, partner it with your essence, your story, and you're going to be one of the voices that's so needed right now. The personal development industry is the second fastest growing industry. It's only second fastest growing to technology. And so you can look out there and see a crowded market, or you can look out there and see an ever increasing demand for mentors and guides and teachers and speakers and trainers and messengers, and get your beautiful, gorgeous self out there because we need you.
That was so well said. I should have been writing all that stuff down. One of the, I'll just write it down after I listen to this again. You're just such a wealth of information, Sage. And one of my favorite things about the book is that you can see my book here. Some of you can see it, is that I literally have written in all the pages and taken notes, and I've read it cover to cover and dog-eared all my favorite pages. And I go back and read them again. And I believe in NEPD, which is never ending professional development. And as an avid student of yours, one of my favorite things that you shared was the GROW model. And for me, it was such an aha moment. And I've read it and I've read it again and I've read it again. And if I may, I want to share your conscious selling affirmation quote inside the book. And it is, "My commitment to changing lives is bigger than my fear of selling." For me, that was so thought-provoking, because we're here to serve. And yet, in order to get our message out and our product into the hands of those that we want to serve, we have to come over that fear of selling. And for some of us, it is fearful. And it was really thought-provoking for me. So Sage, if you don't mind, can you share a little bit about the empowerment of the framework that you use to teach selling?
I just want to thank Jesse Corin for always helping me see. He was one of my mentors, always helping me see that commitment needs to be just bigger than fear, period. And I remember being like, how am I going to get rid of this fear? Like, how is that going to happen? The fear feels so consuming. What if my clients can smell my fear? They're never going to hire me. And I remember Jesse's like, your commitment just has to be like 1 degree bigger. And so that's where we start working on ourselves. How can I get committed? What would I need to feel safe enough in the world to be committed? Who would I need to know had my back? How is this going to work? And when we actually make that commitment, we set ourselves up, we take care of ourselves so that we can make that commitment. It's just incredible, the growth and the impact and the magnetism that we become, because people can smell our commitment. If we're not committed to them, they can smell that. It doesn't mean we have to do it for them. It doesn't mean we have to work nights. It doesn't mean we have to work weekends. Have I worked nights and weekends? Yes. My vision and my dream for my legacy sometimes does not fit into a 40-hour work week. I invite you to think about what it would feel like to give yourself over to the legacy you want to live, to the impact you want to create. And I will take weeks off at a time. In fact, I'm about to get on a plane and go to Bimini to swim with a pod of wild dolphins for a week. And it's like, right, how do we actually set up a business and a life where we play full out, not just in business, but in life? And I think if that is the foundation from which we're offering our services, we can give with so much generosity, and we can inspire people with so much freedom, because we don't have to hold back. We hold back because we're like, well, is this going to work? Am I going to get what I need? What if this doesn't work? What if I fail? And I just love that you brought that affirmation in, Glory, because we have fears at both ends of the spectrum. We have fears of falling on our face. We have fears of being so successful that we end up on Oprah and everybody thinks we've turned our noses up at them. So if you are recognizing yourself in that, you're like, oh yeah, fears at both ends of the spectrum. We just have to make it safe enough to go out there and be successful and offer our services anyway. And the last thing I'll say is that when people pay, they pay attention. We put our money where we want transformation. Money's like glue. That's where we put our money, in the places where we want to transform. And so to be willing to be a place where people invest, you are like a divine bank account of transformation, right? When I invest in Glory, my music career, my music teaching career can take off, right? When we invest, we're actually getting ourselves into the energy of making an investment. And it's that much more easy for people to actually invite others to invest in themselves, and so on and so on and so on. And money just becomes another energy exchange, so we can stop being afraid of it. And I think that's where that empowerment piece comes from, Glory. It's been so much fun to watch you just take that and use it.
Yeah. And read it again and again, and to really internalize it. As a woman in business, I'm here to serve my clients at the highest level, of course. But in wanting to help others, I realized that we can do even more. And I love this chapter 12 in your hymnals, everyone. And I was reading the chapter on giving and getting. And once again, you inspired me to make that part of my business model, which I now have. And Sage, I just was wondering, how has the giving and getting, impacted you in building a balanced business?
Yeah. When I actually set out to look at all the money we've raised over the years and the philanthropic partnerships we've done, and I've gotten a chance to travel to Uganda and Ecuador and parts of Asia and all over the world, and, help build schools and empower girls in developing countries. And there's just so much we've gotten to do because I'm an author and I'm a speaker. It just doesn't escape me that one of the things that I think we resist about building a business is we think we're going to be handcuffed. We think we're going to be shackled. We think we're not going to get to live the other dreams. But it's because we step into leadership and visibility that these huge doors open, these huge opportunities. And I think it's because we align our hearts with what we know is good and right and beautiful. How many of you have wanted to quit your business and go be a philanthropist, I'm guessing probably every one of you listening. And I say that because the great spiritual mystics of all time point us in the direction of, as women, especially, we feel the pains of the world. And the great spiritual mystics say, don't resist the pain. Let your heart shatter and break open all across the floor and all across the entire state. Let that pain expand you so big that your compassion becomes like the Dalai Lama, right? And so rather than quitting our business to become a philanthropist, we can think about our businesses as a mechanism for world change. And as our businesses get more successful and we change clients' lives, think about the women we've impacted. We've impacted over 400,000 women have gone out there with entrepreneurial knowledge and entrepreneurial tools because of Women Rocking Business. And tens of thousands of them that we've tracked are able to donate more, give back more philanthropically, grow businesses that partner with philanthropy. And that is something that I might never have been able to do if I had quit my business to become a philanthropist. So how do you actually build that partnership? Because there's days that I don't want to do this anymore. There's days that I want to quit, but there's two things I can think about. I can think about the women in Uganda who are actually going to school right now because of me. And I can think about the fact that I get to go on an epic, amazing trip with my fiance next week. And now I've covered two important bases. You got to know what your selfless why is, and you got to know what your selfish why is. Yeah. Because if you leave either one of those out, I don't believe you will build the holistic business that you deserve. So one more little assignment as we wrap up this interview, go out there and get clear on why you want this. Because it doesn't mean you have to work harder than everybody else, but it does mean you have to be more committed than everybody else to go beyond what the norm is. And that's what I see in you, Glory. Your commitment shines through the screen with so much potency. I invite every single one of you to think about what's in the way of my biggest, greatest commitment, giving my heart over to this business and making room for it, in addition to the other things in my life. Sometimes we have to say no to other things. And how can I make sure I'm oriented toward both my selfless why, how I want to give back, and my selfish why, how do I maintain myself in it and help me experience my own luxuries and reaching my own dreams in all the way that I want. And Glory, just thank you. Thank you for taking the time today. Thank you for reminding the world that I did pour so much practical wisdom in here. And I'm so proud of every single one of you who picks up this book and whose life is touched by this book. And we're going to teach you the whole grow model that Glory is speaking to. We're going to teach you the whole system at our 3-day event. So grab a ticket to our Rock Sales retreat. It's a 3-day event. It's 90% off right now. You can get tickets for almost nothing. So grab a seat if you haven't already. It's coming right up. And Glory, thank you for attending that event and saying such a huge yes to all of the clients that were waiting for you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sage. I just want to say thank you for sharing your Women Rocking Business. And truly, this is a step-by-step guidebook. I've read it and reread it and continue to read it. And I highly recommend that everyone runs out and grabs a copy of it. You know, from day one, when I started reading your book and made the commitment contract with myself, I can't believe that it's been less than 6 months and I have doubled my revenue from my online courses. I've increased the size of my UMT Dream Team. I have presented multiple live events to grow my list. And I've done all of that because I am a woman who rocks business because of you, Sage. So thank you for writing Women Rockin' Business and inspiring me and thousands of women around the globe to find their purpose with clarity. And I just want you to know that I appreciate you because you help us know that we're not alone. We've done this together. And you, Sage Lavine, are my Shiro goddess. So thank you.
You're going to make me cry. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for standing for music, Glory, at a time when so many educational institutions are not valuing the arts and the creative aspect of life, and music. Thank you for helping us make sure that music gets in the hand of all students around the world who are interested. If you guys want to check out Glory's website, I highly recommend it. ultimatemusictheory.com. Again, that's ultimatemusictheory.com. And we'll put the link to our 3-day sales retreat here in this video and in the podcast as well. And just thank you to every single one of you. And just remember that your clients are out there, and that your clients are actually out there waiting for you. They're not waiting for someone like you. They're actually waiting for you.